All right, friends. So I'm going to demonstrate to you how I'm going to pull off this attempt at a live guitar vocal for Ice Skates. The basics are if you're recording, and I'm going to sit down here and show you, you want to make sure that you don't have a super amount of bleed. So if I'm sitting here, look at this mic. So this will be the guitar mic. And it'll be hard to tell from this angle, but this is the null cancellation point of this ribbon mic. It's a Steven Sank. It's a BM3BX. It's using the ribbons, the RCA ribbons that his dad left him. And he's been modifying other microphones with these ribbons and putting better transformers. I think this has a Beyer transformer in it and the BX RCA ribbon. The important thing is not how fancy your mic is, but that both mics have to be in figure of 8. Ribbon mics like this are naturally in figure of 8. And this cancellation point is pointed up towards my mouth so that it picks up the guitar, but not so much of my vocal. Yes, your vocal will bleed, but guess what? Practice. It won't bleed too much if you're doing it in this configuration, but there will be some bleed. It won't cancel out everything. So practice. Get your tune down. The point is, if you had to punch something, it's a lot easier than when both mics aren't bleeding like horribly into each other, because then it's just useless. I mean, sometimes you can get a performance that way and it's fine, but most of the time there'll be so much guitar in the vocal mic that it's not worth it. So for the vocal, I'm using my trusty Microtech Gefell 70S FET, and that's also going to be in figure of 8. But there's one more important thing we need to do, and that's this. We're going to turn it upside down, like that, like so. And then we're going to tighten it, right? And then there's more. What you want to do is you want to tilt this so that the null point is at your guitar. So I'm going to try to do that without breaking my mic. So we're going to tilt it. Going to tilt it slightly up. And then tilt it towards the guitar. So if I'm sitting here, this is the setup. And I will tweak this. I'll show you this. So this will ultimately be pointed down at the guitar, and this is pointed towards my mouth. So while I'm singing, and I'll probably bring this up a little higher before I'm done, but the point is the null cancellation is blocking out some of the guitar, and the null cancellation of this mic is blocking out some of the vocal. So that's how you basically set it up. Like I said, I'm going to tweak this configuration a little more. I'm going to be checking for phase. I'm also going to try different heights and different positions. I won't bore you with all that, but I will record the performance itself when it's all ready. So one more thing I want you to do is create 3 tracks or 2. In this case, I'm going to try to use the Larrivee, which I believe will sound better with the ribbon mic, but the Martin will sound fine with the ribbon because I recorded with the Martin and the ribbon on Rotten Dream. But I'm going to try the Larrivee first, because one of the things I want to do is I'm going to do a DI track. The Martin doesn't have a DI. So if I don't like the way the Larrivee sounds on the song, I will just use these two tracks. But whether you're using 2 or 3 tracks, I want you to highlight them and group them. And I don't know, call them live performance or whatever. Because now you'll be recording all 3 at the same time, but also for editing. When you go to edit them, they will be in a group, right? Makes it much easier in case you do, like I'm going to do 3 or 4 takes, and it's going to be to a click track, and if there's one section over another that I like better or feels better to me, I can just group them, drop them in. So whether you're just doing a vocal mic and a guitar mic or DI mic and vocal, make sure you group them so it'll be easier to edit. All right, so moving on. So right now I will go ahead and do some tweaking here and get the mics right, and then I will record and videotape the performance. Again, if I didn't mention, I think I mentioned this before, but these pads for the mic stands, they're made by Auralex. They're super cheap, and particularly if you're not in a treated environment, or even if you are, if you're tapping your foot, even when you're trying not to, they're super. They just keep the mic off the raw ground. I put them on every mic stand that I'm recording with. So that's this one, and then that one over there is the other mic. Pick those up. I've got 3 sets of them. I might have 4, but I've been using them for years, and they're cheap, and they're just tremendous for doing this, especially if you're recording at home. So let me tweak this a little more. Of course, if you have any questions, let me know. But the next thing we'll be seeing is the final mic position and the performance itself. So hold on. A couple of more things we talked about last time. Let's go over it one more time. No swivelly chairs. Yes, this is a super duper great studio chair. Rather expensive too. Of course, it's Norwegian. Do not use these kind of chairs. Why? Well, think about it. You're never going to be in exactly the right same spot. And you know what happens when you do that? Phase issues from take to take. No, you don't want to do that. So we're going to get rid of this. This is an acoustic guitar chair. It's made for acoustic guitar. It can fold. The top comes up and it folds. Make sure it's solid before you go for it. But that is an extraordinary chair. I even had them build it a little higher for me because I'm a tall lad. That chair is not moving. So I will get that in the right position. Let's move it over here a little skosh. And this is perfect. There you go. There you go. I've already sat down with the guitar to get the positions. There's the angle of the vocal mic. And you can say, oh, it's tilted. Okay, yeah, it's going to pick up plenty of your voice. You're still hitting right here about. That's where you want to set it, to where it's like just about a third of the way up the microphone. One of the other advantages of the null cancellation and tilting it like that is you'll have less sibilance. Just FYI. And there's the other mic. Again, you see the cancellation. Now, where this mic is going to be is right off the lower bout, just below the bridge of the Larrivee. I'll move it if I'm going to end up using the Martin. But there you go. That's the setup. And now we can try to go for a few takes. And like I said, with the Larrivee, I will be using the direct DI as well. Give you another little angle here. Yes, I'm using the pop filter. Bob Olson and I have come up with a technique for getting rid of pops even on live recordings, but why mess with it? You know, like I already had it on the mic for when I was doing overdubs for vocals, and I'm going to leave it there. So there you go. Two more things. For most of you, it's a good practice to put painter's tape at the back of the corners. You put it on the back of the two corners of the rear of the chair, and put another one here, and put another one here at the front. So you have your little triangle. Make that's a good practice in case the chair moves at all. And the other thing, tune in between every take. All right, let's go for it. Hey, friends, I'm praying that the mic is working this time. I've shot a bunch of videos for you about recording this song live, vocal, guitar. Like I said before, I don't know if one of these came through on the videos that did get salvaged, but on I Cursed the River of Time, it was all recorded live, like the whole band, not just me. And we only had 8 tracks. So there was one word I messed up on one song, and we punched it because there was so much cancellation of the vocal into the guitar mic that I could get away with it. Nobody knew. So that's really important, getting those 2 cancellation points, the 2 null points. Tape your chair, the corners of the chair, tape on the rug where they're at. So if it moves, you just put it back there. That's number 2. Use the the foam bottoms that I told you about. They're not Auralex. They're made by Prime Acoustic, actually. I put them away after recording, and they are made by Prime Acoustic, but they're really cheap. You put them on the bottom of your mic stand legs, and it reduces vibration. Tune between each take. Take breaks. Relax. Be fluid. Be happy. Breathe. Don't rush things. Don't be tense. That's not going to help you do this. You really need to be relaxed. It needs to be a performance. You need to convince yourself that there's an imaginary audience and you're convincing them to believe this performance. It's a performance. So you're just sitting there and you're going, okay, audience, here you go. And you're delivering. And that will make it super convincing. So that's just to do a quick recap, because we lost so much material that I filmed the last 2 days. So I will eventually, the next video will be me showing you the final version of what I ended up using. It's not this one. This was the first take. I didn't film it because it was the first take. But what's significant is the amount of cancellation, and I want to show that to you. Also, I want to mention that this was no click track. It was pretty steady, but there was no click track. The version I ended up using had a click track because I decided that, you know what, I'm going to put the headphones on and listen to what I'm doing and have a click track so that it's super duper solid. And then you can just take multiple takes and chop them together, which is what Bob Dylan did early in his career, even though he wasn't using a click track. Yeah, a lot of those early, the first couple, a few Dylan records, if you look at the sheet on the tapes from the vault, it's like, okay, this song was take 1 of this, take 2 of this, and take 3 of this, and put in different pieces. They edited them. So that's a lot easier if you're using a click track. But you don't have to do that. You can also edit them if you're not using a click track, if you get the miking right and consistent and you stay in the same position in your chair. And that's why taping the chair is important. All right, here we go. Vocal mic on the bottom, guitar mic in the middle, and DI on the top. There will, of course, be phasing issues slightly between them. I tried to get them as close as possible. Let's listen to it all together. This is, again, the first take. Left my ice skates in your closet. I don't expect that they're still there. You think I left them there on purpose. I think it's funny you still care. But, all right, all at 0, right? The faders are at 0. Now I'm going to isolate each track. We'll start with the vocal, and you'll hear how much of the guitar is bleeding. I'm coming home for Christmas, and I'm not running to you. And when we see each other's faces, I want you to know the truth. So, it's always going to have a little more guitar bleeding. I tweaked it a little bit after this take to have even less, but it's a percussive pianistic instrument. It's gonna cut through. But that ain't bad. Now let's listen to the guitar. Hardly hear the vocal. Sounds very, very far away. Perfect. That's what you're going for. And then you tweak to taste as you go along. Like I said, I tweaked it a little more to get a little less guitar in the vocal mic. And the two of them sound together. Now with this is without the DI. The DI is very useful because, and I'll show you that in a second, because it just gives you that extra little punch. And in this case, the vocal mic and the guitar mic were fairly in phase to each other. And the DI, because it's immediate, it seemed out of phase. It's not. It's just more immediate. The other two are out of phase with it. So I just pulled that back a little bit to line up with the other two. I haven't done it yet here, but I've done it in the final version. So that's where it was useful, because it's almost like having a different EQ, right? Rather than doing so much stuff on your guitar mic, you have that DI to cover certain punchiness and frequency ranges to blend. So that's just the DI. Now let's listen to the DI and the guitar mic. You hear how they're complementing each other, which means you have less work to do. Obviously, you're going to bring the DI down in the mix to blend with the guitar mic and then still do some EQ, but it makes for less work. It's cool. It's a cool thing. You don't have to do it. If you don't have a guitar with a DI, don't worry about it. The important thing is to get the performance and to get as much cancellation between the two mics. But in this case, it was very, very, very useful. Now I'm going to try to blend them a little bit. And when we kissed under the tree, world around us disappeared. I wonder why I let you go. Most of all this time of year. Time hasn't swallowed I really didn't mean to hurt you the last time we said goodbye. Do you remember I returned your favorite sweater, and now I feel better. So I hope you wouldn't mind if I got something back of mine. Time hasn't swallowed any memories. So there you go. That's the first take, and it got better from there, hopefully. And I hope you got something out of this little kind of a tutorial of how I was going to record this song, since we were doing it as guitar vocal only. I'll be moving on to the next song and finishing that, which I already started, which is Let the Right One In. And then there's only one more song after that to finish the record. And then there'll be a lot of fine tuning, which I will document, because each song has little things going all the way back to song 2, because I rewrote the lyrics. So I got to do a new vocal, and every song after that has little things. So the finishing of an album is a lot more than just throwing it down, getting a bunch of tracks. They sound good. Yeah, it feels right. And then send it off to a mixer. No, we all know this. There's a lot of little details that need to be done, and I have to polish all those little details, and I will document them all. That will be easier to document all for you as I go back and then go forward again, and we're finally done sometime over the next couple of months. So thanks for being here. If you have any questions, let them rip.